All right, everyone, this is your last essay explanation. So this is your third essay, your literary analysis paper. And it's a lot simpler than the last two in the sense that a lot of it's up to you at this point. You've done all the work of knowing how to construct an argument, how to do an outline, how to do peer reviews, all these different things to help you. So now it's really up to you to kind of do these elements without needing guidance for it. So your prompt for this essay is basically combining your knowledge of creating an argument, which is what you're still doing, but you're creating an argument here about literature. So we've talked about the story and we've talked about sort of the different elements that you're going to be looking at when you're looking at literature. And you're going to choose one of those elements and you're going to create an argument about something in the story that pertains to one of those elements. So essentially, what you're going to do is the only thing you're going to be submitting to me is the final draft of your essay, and it's due the week before the dead week. So you actually are going to be done with all of your assignments a week before your final exam. And that week you will have an extra credit opportunity and you'll be studying for your exam. But everything else will be done as far as your writing assignments. So what you're going to do is you're going to create an argument about the piece of literature that you choose focused on a character, theme, or an approach. So when you're talking about character, there's a couple different things you can really talk about. We talked about a lot of these elements in those different PowerPoints, but when you think about character, you're thinking about behaviors and motivations. So think about what characteristics do you know about that character and why does it matter? Why does it matter that the author chooses to convey those characteristics for that character in particular? How do you know these elements? Do these characteristics conflict with each other? Do they work with each other? This is kind of where your own critique can come in. Is the character trustworthy? Do you think they're telling the truth? Are they a reliable narrator? Are they, a protagonist, antagonist? What elements tell you this? If they're not, why would they be lying? What's the motivation? What's the purpose? And then what do they stand to gain or lose? And then the background. You want to notice things about the characters. So notice their cultural history. Notice where they come from. Notice what their, sort of language is. So how do they convey meaning to other people? Are they sneaky? Do they lie? All these different things. If you choose to do theme, the theme again is basically the overall message, the theme, the message, the point of the story. So what is the reader supposed to learn from this story? What evidence talks about this theme? What shows this theme in the story? And if you choose to do approach, then you're going to choose one of those schools of thought that we talked about. All those different elements where we talked about his historical background, or where we talked about how the author's bio might figure in, or the reader response, all these different things. I'm going to choose one of those approaches and then create an argument telling me why that approach applies to the story. So how do you read that story through that lens? How does gender dynamics fit? How does, all these different elements, racial tension, whatever it might be, fit with the story? So you will be basically creating a normal essay structure. So you'll have an intro, a body, and a conclusion. You'll still have counter arguments. So in this sense, your counter argument might be something like, a person might not agree with my stance on this story because of X, but here's why my stance is correct. So if you want to tell me a certain character is a feminist, and you might say someone would disagree with that, and here's why, but here's why I think they really are a feminist, and I'm going to disprove that idea. So your essay is 3 to 4 pages in length, and it's due on Sunday, April 30th by midnight. MLA formatting, of course, and everything checked through, turn it in. Make sure that you also adhere to the minimum number of page lengths, which in this case is much shorter. It's only 3 pages minimum. And I'm giving you some example topics here. So if you want to talk about character analysis, look for conveying to your reader who the character is. Make a picture of them. Help us see who they are. Look at motivations and behavior that tells you what that kind of character is. And then find the specific evidence from the text. So this is where you pull quotes that show that characteristic. If you're going to do themes, you could do things like truth versus perception, honor and virtue, love, tradition, and rebellion. But you need to pick a stance. So tell me, what is the author conveying about truth versus perception? Do they think truth is absolute, or do they think it's something that can be manipulated? Do they think honor or virtue is relative to one's beliefs? You can understand sort of a general idea of how to pick a stance about a theme. And then again, you'll pull specific evidence from the text to show me what you're talking about. And then example approaches could be a feminist reading of a character, or in her role in the story. You could also do a reading of a male character, not discuss masculinity. You could do a cultural reading. So how does the culture affect the theme or the meaning of the story? How are those two things interrelated? You could do a psychological reading. So you could look at a character and look at the psychological mindset and the different thought processes, and how does that character evolve psychologically or de-evolve psychologically throughout the story. You could also do a new critical reading about something like symbolism, where you look at a specific element like a symbol or a motif, or perhaps an extended metaphor, and what does it mean for the story, and here's all the evidence related to it, and here's all the different aspects of it. So as you work, think about what you want to do, what you want to talk about when it comes to literature. Pick something that's interesting to you and something that has meaning to you. So for me, a feminist reading is something that's really fascinating because I am a feminist. If it's something that has to do with a cultural theory and that you connect with or understand, that might be interesting to you. If you're interested in the mind, you might do a psychological approach just to see what that looks like. Again, all parts of the argument required. Make sure that you use the outline to help you. And then you have to have at least one counter argument. So one other idea that you refute, but you can have up to 3. So general, usual essay formatting requirements and usual content requirements, the outline, of course, and then the final submission. So when you submit to me, you're actually going to submit the outline on February 5th, save a copy, and then submit in the packet, and then the final essay as well. So your outline here is very, very simple. Claim, reasons, counterarguments, conclusions. Again, you don't need to have 3 counterarguments. You can have just one. Just you fill in the elements that fit with your essay. So if you have questions, let me know. But otherwise, I hope you guys have fun with this one and go ahead and get started.